Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's UBC Camps Play and Learn. My name is Kiana, and today we're going to be doing some really fun stuff with watercolors. So just before we begin, I just want to go over a handful of little housekeeping things for today. Just so you guys know, we're going to turn all of our video and audio off. So if you have any questions with us, what you'll be able to do is to send in a message through the chat function. And if you're having a little bit of difficulty with that, you can just ask whoever is kind of helping you out or looking after you today. So any kind of parent or guardian, just send us your message and that'll be able to come to me so I can either kind of slow down or do a better job of explaining. With that in mind, we would appreciate you using camp appropriate language in that chat. So making sure that everything we're saying is still polite and appropriate. All right, and then last but not least, we will be recording this session. So if you want to come back, maybe something you missed, or you want to kind of do this again later, it'll all be posted to our UBC Camps YouTube channel where you'll be able to see it again. All right, now to start with, I just wanted to show you guys some of the materials that I have with me for my art project today. So I've got a handful of pieces of paper that I'm going to be painting on, a glass of water. I have 3 paintbrushes of different sizes. You only need 1, but if you have a couple extra, that's awesome. We can kind of do a couple more things. I have a candle with me, which may seem a little funny, but I couldn't find a pencil or a normal crayon, which is kind of what we've been asking for. So any kind of thing made out of wax. So a crayon or a candle works great. A couple pieces of tissue paper or paper towel. One of them can be for wiping and another one will be for one of our techniques. I've got some table salt in a shaker, but loose table salt works too. Some tape, and then I have some rubbing alcohol and Q-tips. And then last but certainly not least, most importantly, I've got some paints. And so the paint colors I've kind of picked out today are yellow, green, some white, a blue color, a purple color, a black, and a red or pink. You can kind of use any colors you like. Some of you might have a big store-bought set, and if you have the choice, those are the ones I'm doing. So if you want your project to look like mine, that might be the easiest. You don't really need purple, but it's my favorite color, and so that's why I decided to pull it out today. What color would you choose to be your absolute favorite if you had to do one project? Did someone say pink? I love that color too. It's awesome. So I guess right to start with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some different techniques that we'll use later for our big art piece. So I'm going to start by taking one of my pieces of paper and some tape. I'm using painter's tape for this, but you guys can use some pens and pencils if you want. You can kind of use anything that works for you, but I'm just going to start by making some boxes. So as you can see on my little art set here, I'm going to start and I'm going to put the tape down the middle the long way to divide my page in half like that. And then I'm going to take a couple of my shorter pieces and I'm going to put it across my paint this way. So I'm kind of making some boxes all the way through, just like this. And so I'm going to make 6 boxes out of this. Put that one the wrong way. So it's just going to go like this. We're going to make 6 boxes out of our tape. And that's going to be the outline for the little techniques we're going to be trying today. So again, you can just draw them out with a pen if you don't have any tape with you. I just like to use the tape because it's really clear where my lines are going to be. So there we go. I've got my tape square all done. And as you can see, it just looks like a grid. It's not perfectly even, but that's totally okay. Just any kind of squares for some defined spaces. We're only going to use 5 of these today. So you can pick any one that you like to start with. So what I'm going to do is when we're using watercolor paint, it's really important that we get our paper nice and wet. So I'm going to start by I'm using my biggest paintbrush. You guys can use one you have. And I'm going to dip it in my water. So I'm going to dip it in my water and then tap it off so it's not too wet. And then I'm going to start water painting my first box. If you have too much, you can just dab it on your paper towel. And then we're gonna put water all over our first box. And we're just gonna do this one box at a time. So now that this box is all nice and wet, it won't really look any different, but it's really gonna help us spread our colors out. So you can choose any color you wanna start with. I'm gonna start my first one with my favorite color, which is purple. So I'm gonna take my paint, and you wanna get it really wet, just like the paper. So dip your paintbrush in the water, and then you're gonna put it on some paint until it becomes nice and liquidy. See how it's moving there? That's kind of what you want. And then you can tap it off a little bit, and then we're going to start brushing it on our piece of paper. So I like to start by going around the corner, one at the top up, and then one line down the side, and then kind of dragging the paint through. And as you can see, as I kind of go down, it gets a little bit lighter. And so I'm gonna go back in a couple times because I like my colors to be really bright. So I'm gonna take another bit of paint and go all the way through my colors so it's really bright. I might even do it a third time. And if your colors are too dark, what you can do is you can go in with some more water, just plain water on your paintbrush, and that'll kind of lighten it up for you. So now that I've got my paint on my first square, the first technique I'm going to use is with the salt. So I'm gonna grab my little thing of salt here, and I'm going to just put it on top of the paint. And so now I'm gonna show you on my big screen what that kind of looks like. So it gives this cool kind of speckled look, which I think is super neat. Now I'm going to go to my second square. So I'm gonna do the same thing, just kind of wet off my paintbrush. Yours might have a little bit of paint on it, that's okay. Gonna wet it off a little bit, clean it up, and then I'm just gonna pat it on my paper towel. And then I'm gonna go in with my next color. And next I think I'm gonna use some blue. So again, oops, actually I forgot to wet my paper. So that's a really important step. So sorry about that. We're gonna wet our paper first, just like that. It's okay if there's a little bit of the previous color on it because we just need it to be nice and wet and the paint will cover that. So I've got my paper nice and wet, and now I'm gonna go in and get some blue. And again, we wanna put some water on that so it gets a little bit more movement in it. And so it kind of looks runny like that. And once it's runny, I'm gonna tap it off a little bit, and then I'm gonna go over to my square and paint that in. Again, I like to start from two corners and then paint outwards. And then if it's too light, I've got a lot of paint on this one, so I can just keep going back and forth to kind of spread it out across. And the more you kind of go back and forth, the more it blends in, becomes one cohesive or similar looking square. So that looks pretty good. I've got my square all colored, and this technique that I'm going to use is going to be with my rubbing alcohol. Oops, it looks like I might have paused a little bit. There we go. With my rubbing alcohol, which is just any kind of thing. You can use nail polish remover if you have it, but because we're all stuck inside, rubbing alcohol is usually something we have. So a little bit of that and a Q-tip, and I'm gonna dip my Q-tip in just like this, and then I'm gonna put it onto the paper. And you'll kind of see when you put it on the paper, down here like this, the paint almost runs away from it, like it's scared. So you can just put it down and your paint is gonna start running away. And if you have a lot of rubbing alcohol on your Q-tip, it's gonna make a big circle away from it. And if there's a little bit of rubbing alcohol, it won't move away very far. So you can kind of play around with how far you want those circles to be. And you can see where there's lots of paint, it's gonna spread really far. But where there's not as much paint, it might not move as far or might not look as different. So now I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like here. So see where I put my little Q-tip down is where the paint ran away and kind of formed those big circles, which is kind of cool. All right, so next I'm gonna move to my next technique. So again, wetting my paintbrush and painting my next square. Again, it's okay if that looks like there's a little bit color from the last one, that's pretty normal. And the next one I'm going to do, I'm going to use my one of my dark colors. So for me, I'm going to use my black one. So I'm going to take a little bit of the black and I'm going to wipe it in with some water. And it might take a little bit more if your paints kind of feel dry. So you might need to go in again and get a bit more water and just make it nice and liquidy. And then you might need to tap some off. I felt like my last one had a lot of liquid on it. And then go back in and just paint your next square. And for this one, I want it to be really dark so that the technique we're using stands out. So I'm going to do 2 layers of the dark paint. Perfect. So now that I've got my dark square, I'm going to put my pen or my paintbrush away, and I'm going to grab a little bit of my tissue paper, and I'm going to kind of scrunch it up into a little ball. I'm going to just press down on it, and it's going to give a little technique that I can almost make a cloud. So it'll take some of my paint off, which is kind of cool. But you can kind of choose how it takes it off. So if you press lighter, it'll take less. And if you take more, then you can press harder. And then if you want, once you've taken some off, you can go back over it and press some of that paint back in. Perfect. So now, as you can see, that almost makes a cloud-like shape when it takes it off. And you can still see a little bit of the color lightly in there, but it mostly takes it off. And then here you can kind of see some of my blues ran down. That's totally okay. It just means that the colors are kind of spreading together because they were pretty liquidy. So next what we're going to do is a little different. I'm going to do something with my crayon. Or for me, I have a candle, either works, but you're going to draw something on your piece of paper. And you're not going to see it at first, but that's okay because it'll be really cool. So I'm going to draw a smiley face and a star. You can draw whatever you want. So if you want to start, just draw that first before we even put any of the water on. So I'm doing a smiley face and I'm doing a star. And now that that's done, we're going to go back in and get a bit more water. And I'm going to paint over it with just the water again. And it doesn't have to be too much, just a little bit to get it wet. Just like that. And you can use kind of any color you want for this one. So I think I'm going to use some yellow because when I think of stars, I think of the color yellow, and that's what I drew. But maybe you drew something else. So feel free to color whatever you want. So I'm going to moisten some of this, get it nice and wet. And then I'm going to take my paint, rub it off a little bit, and go over top of this one. And so you'll see at the start, you can't really see much. And you'll be thinking, well, Kiana, why did you have us do that? But once you put paint all the way over it, it's almost like a secret message that appears. And all of a sudden, you can see there's a smiley face and a star that comes out. And that's because the paint doesn't get along with the crayon. So the wax and the paint aren't friends and they don't like to combine like 2 paints do. And that means that the paint's gonna kind of stay on top of your wax, and that's how we can have those cool kind of things pop out of it. What did you guys draw in there? I really like the star and the smiley face because it was easy, but maybe you drew something even cooler, like a dinosaur or a strawberry. Awesome. The last little technique we're going to use is a splatter technique. And this is kind of why, for me, I put a towel under my workstation. If you don't have anything, just try and make sure that we're doing little tiny taps. So this one, I don't need to make my sweater wet, but I do need my paint to be pretty liquidy. So I'm gonna take my paintbrush, and for this one, I'm gonna use some red, and I'm gonna get some nice liquidy red color, and I want a lot of it on it this time. And then I'm just gonna take a pen, or if you have another paintbrush, to hold it out over top, And then you're just gonna be able to do some splotches, just like that, by tapping it on top. And it might go onto your other pieces, that's okay. I've got something cool we can do later on so that it doesn't spread over the place as much. So now I've got my splotches done, just like that. And so it kind of looks like a splatter. A little bit went onto my other one, but that's totally okay. Perfect. So now we've got our 5 techniques that we've worked on. We've got our salt, which kind of looks like speckles on top of the same color. Our rubbing alcohol, which makes the paint run away and kind of make really clear circles that can be little or big. We did our tissue paper, which makes a cloud-like look where we can take away just a little bit or a lot of the paint color, exactly how we choose. The crayon look, which lets us draw underneath the paint and it won't let the paint on top. And then our last one was these little splotches here, which is used by taking lots of paint and kind of tapping it on top of something. So this paint kind of sprawls out just like that on top of our paper. So now that we've kind of learned those little techniques, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little art project all together. And I've chosen to do a springtime art project, and I'm gonna draw one of my favorite fruits, which is a watermelon. Have you guys ever seen a watermelon before? I thought they're really cool because we can combine a lot of these tools that we've used to kind of make it the different colors of a watermelon, kind of a pinky red, but still have that really pretty green bottom. So to start with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little crayon here and I'm going to draw the shape of a watermelon. So on my board, it's kind of like a triangle with a rounded bottom. So I'm going to do a triangle and then bring the ends together, just like that. And if you can't quite see what I did there, I'll do it one more time in pen. So I'm going to make a triangle, just like this, and then make a rounded end. And then if you can, do a second rounded end right here. And that's gonna separate our watermelon fruit from what we call the rind, which is the green part. So it's gonna look just like that, whoops, just like this with our crayon. So you won't really be able to see it at first, but that's okay. And then we're gonna just go in and we're gonna start by doing the top part of the watermelon. So for that part, I'm using my red color. You can use pink, but there's all different colors of watermelon. You can actually get something called a golden watermelon, which is more of a yellow color. So there's all kinds of ways we can draw this. So I'm gonna start by trying to do my best job to color in this big triangle first with my water. And that's just gonna get it wet so the paint spreads out properly. Doesn't have to be perfect though. And what's cool is once we go in with the paint, our little border that we made is gonna kind of show us what lines to stay within. So I've got my water all there, and now I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get some red paint. And what I think works really well is just doing the outside along one side here. So I'm gonna go along the side of my watermelon and try and use that little bit of crayon that we had on the side to see what the edge should be. And then I just get mine a little wet and I'm gonna start to spread it in. And you'll see that by doing that wax or the crayon on the other side, it's gonna keep our paint inside the lines that we drew, which is kind of cool. And the more water we put on it, the more it'll kind of spread. So I like to go in from both sides and kind of right into the middle, just like that. And you guys can kind of do this whichever way you like. Some people like theirs to be super bright. I like mine to be a little lighter on the inside, but again, any way kind of works. The key thing here is that our watermelon is going to be pretty wet, because the first thing we're going to do is use our Q-tip and rubbing alcohol. So that's what my watermelon looks like. It's a very pale pink color, and you can kind of see my paint's going down to the bottom as I hold it up like that. So now that I've got my watermelon, the outside drawn out, I'm gonna come again and I'm gonna take a Q-tip and I'm gonna dip it into my rubbing alcohol. I'm gonna tap some of it off because I don't want really big parts to come off. And now I'm gonna make a bunch of little dots in here. And I'm gonna hold it really lightly because I don't want them to be super, super dark, just light little dots. And this might seem a little strange, but whenever I've eaten watermelon, I find that right around where the seeds are, it's a little bit lighter. And so later on, I'm gonna draw my seeds in here. So now that I've got that done, I'll hold it up for you again. And you can kind of see how my watermelon has the little dots and my paint's kind of running. That's okay, it'll avoid that little alcohol splotches. So now I've got that part done. The next thing I'm gonna do is the bottom, which is what we call the rind. And so I'm gonna go in and get that part wet. And again, just wash off your paintbrush. If you find like the red is hard to take off, you can wipe it on a towel a little bit, get it just a little wet again, and then I'm gonna start by making the bottom part of my drawing all nice and wet. Perfect. And then here we're gonna kind of blend together some colors. So the first color I always think of when I have this watermelon rind is green. So the bottom part, I'm gonna take some of my wet green that I already made, and I'm gonna trace it along the bottom, just like this. And you'll kind of see with yours, when you put the paint on, it's gonna try and climb up the water, just like it was a ladder. So just put a little bit on, but it doesn't have to go all the way up yet. Perfect. Now I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna take some of the yellow, just because this way it can kind of be two colors and it'll be a little bit lighter on the top than the bottom. So I'm gonna take a little bit of yellow and tap it off, and then I'm gonna do the same thing and draw along the top. And you'll see it's not gonna wanna stick where you've got your crayon drawn, which is really cool because it keeps that nice white part in between. And then I'm just gonna dab mine off in a little bit of water and then rub it off because I don't want much color coming off here, and I'm just gonna blend them together. So I'm gonna bring my yellow down into the green, just like that. And then they'll kind of become one color together. Now is when we can kind of use our artistic independence, which is kind of just making it our own. So you can see mine here, it's pretty yellow. I kind of want it to be a bit more green. So I'm gonna take a couple seconds and go in and add a bit more green to mine. You might like it like this, you might want it more yellow, you might want more pink on top. So just take a couple seconds to really make it your own and add any kind of more colors that you want to yours. So I want it to be a bit more green, so I'm gonna add that from the bottom again, and maybe a bit more on the sides too. And then again, just kind of taking some time to try and blend those colors together. Perfect. I love how that looks. Amazing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to make some little, I'm actually going to go and add a little more pink. Or you could just add some water to yours, whatever you want. So just making it a little wet on top of our pink surface again. So you might add more pink if you like. I'm just adding some water. Kind of either way works. But I just want it to get wet again, because now we're going to use our second technique, which is the salt. So once we've got that done and it's all nice and liquidy, I'm going to go in and I'm going to take my bit of salt here, just like this, and I'm going to sprinkle it on top, which is going to make my watermelon look kind of grainy, which means there's going to be little dots on it. So now I've got my little salt dots on it. I'm going to take a smaller paintbrush. If you don't have a smaller paintbrush, you can continue to use whichever one you have. And I'm going to add some dark dots into the middle for seeds of those little light circles. So taking a little tiny bit of this darker color, maybe it's gray, maybe it's purple. I'm using black. and just making some little dots inside for seeds. And they don't all have to be inside there. Maybe you want yours to be in different places. This is really how we can make them all look unique, which is true. All watermelon look different. Perfect. I'm gonna add a couple outside of the dots too, just because those weren't really enough for me. And now I've kind of got this really cool looking watermelon, just like this. And so that's great. And now the last little thing I want to do, because this is just kind of a bare paper right now, I'm gonna take a second piece of paper like this, and I'm gonna cut out a shape that's kind of similar to my watermelon. And the reason we're gonna do that is so we can do the splotches over top of it. So I'm just gonna cut out a shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, but this is just gonna keep my watermelon from getting the splotches on it. So kind of cutting out a triangle and then just trying to do your best to make a bit of a round bottom. It doesn't have to be perfect, just any kind of shape. So that's what mine's gonna be like. And then I'm gonna put it right on top of my current watermelon, just like that. And so as you can see, mine's a little too small, that's okay, but just wanting it on top to kind of cover. And now I'm gonna go back to that technique we used earlier where we did the splotches. So I'm gonna use purple first. Like I said, it's my very favorite color, and it kind of reminds me of spring. So I'm gonna take my purple and something hard to put it against. You can even use your finger like this, and you're gonna do splotches all over your paper, just like that. And I'm gonna get a little bit more because I love the color purple, and keep doing that all over my paper. And you might like it just like that. I think I want to add a second color. And another color that really reminds me of spring and summer is yellow. So I'm going to grab a little bit of that, get it really wet again so the splotches are easy. And then I'm going to do splotches all over my paper. You might need a little bit more water to make it nice and runny, kind of whatever works for you. So I got my splotches going all the way around it. Don't forget the bottom. Perfect. So now I'm gonna take my little piece of paper off here, maybe put it on top of a second piece of paper just so it doesn't make a big mess. And then this is what my watermelon looks like. Whoops, I had a little too much paint there so it ran over. But that's pretty cool. And that looks awesome. Now you've got some springtime art all done. So the last thing any artist does when they finish an art project is they write their name on it. So I'm gonna write Kiana at the bottom. You can write your name, or you might need some help writing your name. And then that's the end of our project. So I've got my name really big here so that when I give it to someone, they can see that I drew it. So that's kind of all I have for us today in terms of a nice little art project. I hope that you guys enjoyed yourselves and found it pretty easy to carry along with us. If you did, if you want to do it again or you need some help coming back to another step, we're going to put this video on our YouTube channel so you can go check it out again and follow along with the steps. I would love to see the art you guys did. So if your parents want, they can share it with us on social media using the hashtag UBCPlayLearn or by tagging us in @UBCCamps. And that way we can kind of see what you did and maybe share your art project with other people who did it too. If you had fun at today's session, we're doing these sessions all week long, Monday through Thursday. So tomorrow we've got a kids aquafit session, which is going to be run by Megan, who's one of our swim instructors at the Aquatic Center. So you'll be able to throw on your bathing suit, bring a water bottle, and come and take part in your own living room pool party, which sounds like so much fun. I've really been missing going to the pool, so I'm definitely going to check that out tomorrow, which is May 5th at 3:30 p.m. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you had a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see you guys joining us again sometime soon. Okay, have a lot of fun and a great day. Bye.